it serious enough. Okay, I am recording. All right. So my name is Bryson Graham. I'm going to report on balancing safety and productivity and profitability in the workplace from the perspective of an engineer. One of the big things that we're going to be faced with is, where to set deadlines, where to set cost measures, among other things, certain things that could directly affect employees and consumer health and the environmental safety in general. So we will get into that. Before I get into anything, I just want to set up an ethical framework. I'll be using two today. First off is the National Society of Professional Engineers, which is a pretty big organization. The ones I want to focus are listed in bold. So we have to hold paramount the safety, health, and welfare of the public. So when we're designing something or setting certain things in place, who's going to be affected by this? And we really just need to prioritize public health and safety. We also need to act for our employers and clients as faithful agents or trustees. So at the same time as we need to be concerned with the public, we need to be concerned with our company. And of course, concerned because they are putting food on the table and money in our pockets. We also need to conduct ourselves honorably, responsibly, ethically, and lawfully as to enhance the honor, reputation, usefulness of the profession. So just general trustworthiness of engineering, just try to act good. So to keep everything else in mind, I suppose. The other ethical framework is the Board of Certified Safety Professionals. My father is one of these safety professionals, so I've heard a lot of stories from him in regards to this. So whenever I came to him telling him that I was going to do this project, he says, "You need an ethical framework, this is what he used." The first one is to hold paramount the safety and health of the people, which kind of piggybacks off of what the engineering code says. And also to seek opportunities to be constructive in the service of civil affairs. So this could function in the same way as the previously mentioned one, but also could be in other directions. So say we're civil engineer, we're building roads. We want to try our best to keep these roads in use as much as possible and not in a state of construction, because it directly interferes with people's lives and hurts the civic affairs of people. So this is relevant to engineers as we will be asked to give our input on a lot of things. Increase production numbers, specifically in the automotive industry. For instance, I was at an event for VW and they were talking about their production per certain minute or how many they'd have off of the line in an hour. And these numbers are very important. It's kind of big things that they can throw around people, look how much we can do, but also it helps get them products off the line, products, profit, all that's very important. But also, the faster we do things, the more risk of injury there is, and of course, the risk of fatality. Also, pushing for cost-saving measures, as we'll see in other slides to follow. Cost-saving measures can directly put people in jeopardy and also can lead to certain longevity issues in products, which would be less than ideal for the people using them. Also, as project deadlines, which kind of jumps off of the production numbers idea. Harsh deadlines cause brash decisions, which lead to injuries and worse. The first thing we should consider is consumer safety. Of course, the people using our products are very important. A recent example of this is Boeing. We've had the doors flying off planes, other mechanical issues that are leading to endangering many people. I couldn't find any academic literature on that, so I would mention it, but we'll mention a previous case in 2013. Boeing's issues really started to stem in the 1990s when they lost their market share to Airbus, so they decided to reevaluate their position in the market and attempt to cut production costs to make it more affordable to send their equipment out to people. This resulted in 2013, the 787 being grounded for a time due to faulty lithium-ion batteries causing explosions, which naturally puts a lot of people at risk. And also at the same time, grounded airplanes really interferes with the civic affairs of people, like we mentioned earlier. And as I said earlier, Boeing is a really good example of what not to do at times. Worker safety is a big thing to consider. I grew up around a lot of people who are in the more blue collar side of things, and just looking out for guys like that is very important to me. And I think that the ethical frameworks also back that in importance. So there are 3.7 fatalities per 100,000 full-time workers, which is altogether too high. This data is coming from 2022. And there are about 125 fatalities yearly. So of these, there are about 4,000, 5,000 of these are from traumatic injuries, and 120,000 of these are from occupational diseases. This could be from cancers, just poor environment leading to the detriment of somebody's health. So bad materials. Think about if you're on the factory floor, what you're inhaling. It's not always good. And this could not just affect people who are working in the field, but also engineers who have to walk production floors. There are about 3.2 of these 100,000 deaths earlier that are considered preventable, which is altogether too high, even though it's been lowered in recent years. The thing that's important to consider that of these 3.2 per 100,000 people, it's more than a number. That's 3.2 fathers, daughters, brothers, and all the family members. There are people that these people are very important to, and nobody really wants to see anybody die. Environmental safety can affect beyond just people, but also ecosystems that not only sustain people, but keep Earth the way it is. A big example of that is oil spills. Oil companies do a lot of messing up at times. There's 30 to 50% of oil spills were either directly or indirectly caused by human error. 20 to 40% of all spills are caused by equipment failure or malfunction. So as engineers, we need to consider how to reduce the chance of human error and of course make our equipment more reliable so there is less of a chance of it failing. This could be directly in opposition to the cost-saving measures that some companies might want us to employ. I think it's important to focus on the weight of our decisions and actions in the field of engineering. We are acting for more than just ourselves. As I mentioned previously, my father's in safety sciences, and this was his first fatality report. Probably about a month into his job, I actually was coming down, and this is the report that he had to give. An employee was loading 20-inch ductile iron pipe into a trailer that was placed at a 30-degree incline. The pipe rolled back into him, and as he was trying to avoid it, his foot got caught in a grate in the ground. This is not directly linked to an engineering fault. This is just an incident that could happen any day in any field, and it's unfortunate. But the lack of looking around and just being aware of your surroundings and careful in environment led to this man's death. And if we as engineers aren't considerate of these factors, we can increase the chance of an event like this happening. So this is what we should consider to try to keep in balance all the things I've mentioned before. How will this change affect my coworkers, employees, people around me? These are people that we have to see every day. How is this going to directly affect their lives for the better or worse? Will a production change make it harder for them to do their job properly? Will it make it easier for them to make the one fatal mistake? How will this affect consumers? Will this lead to recalls? Nobody wants to be pulled into the automobile shop for the day to get their stuff fixed. Nobody wants to return their products because it's a recall. Nobody wants to die because of something faulty. How does this change cause risks that put people in danger? Much more general sense, just how can what we are doing lead to risks within people? We also have how does this change affect production time, which is the opposite side of the coin. How do what we do lead to the productivity being worse or better? We need to consider this because at the same time as we are looking out for the people, we also have to look out for our companies, because if the companies aren't profitable and and we're out of a job, it's not good for anybody. Saying to the same effect, there's the profitability. We got to balance all of these factors just to make sure the company runs properly and also to make sure that nobody is at risk and there are no injuries on our hands. And I will take questions now.
So when companies are considering kind of like the production, like efficiency versus the like kind of the safety costs, how do they try to assign like a dollar value to the human life?
I wouldn't say that exactly, but one of the studies that I looked at before, it was from one of the safety societies. They talked about how $1 put towards a life-saving measure is about $2 back that will be prevented from being spent to kind of fend off legal action, lawsuits, that kind of thing. And also, of course, if there's an investigation, it shuts down production, stuff along that lines. So there is a benefit to the company, definitely.
In your opinion, how would you combat the negligence from higher ups or from engineers who get faulty design?
I think the best thing that engineers can do is kind of have a voice in the conversation. I definitely think that too many times people are just kind of pushed around by higher ups and upper management, and it would lead to a possible negligence and not considering that. And it's easy to say as a student sitting out here, not in the field, nothing I'm doing right now really alters whether I have food on the table for my family or not. But I think if we have open discourse with upper management, people who are giving us like orders, for lack of better words, it can make things a lot smoother and a lot of people's lives could definitely be saved.
What industries in particular do you think tend to suffer safety issues?
It's very tough. There are a lot of industries that suffer from safety issues that are more like just the nature of the job. Like as I was talking about with my dad, he was in heavy civil, and there are a lot of incidents in heavy civil, regardless of the company. I was talking to somebody earlier, like, whoa, this is crazy. I don't want to work with that. It's just stuff like that's very difficult. There are dangerous fields, and there are inherent risks in working that manufacturing falls victim to it. I don't have numbers offhand, but if you look at the top 10 OSHA reported fatalities, it's almost all of it's just like, this is a hard field to work on. This was a fall risk. This was whatever happened. And some jobs are dangerous. And our job is to prevent them from being as dangerous as they are now.
With some of the environmental stuff, you said that a lot of it can be dedicated to human error,
Yes.
but also machine malfunction. How do you combat that?
Well, I didn't go in as the environmental side. I'm not as passionate about that. Not that it's not important, because it's definitely important. But from what it seems, just like equipment not being easy to use. I don't know if you guys have ever seen a video of an oil rig, but that is tough stuff. And whenever you're throwing around this huge heavy machinery, there's no way that it's like you can perfectly do it every time. It's more of an assumption. I don't know a lot about it, but it's definitely, it's hard, so something to that extent. Making machinery easier to use, I think would definitely help in that case, and making stuff more reliable. I could definitely assume that at times cost saving measures were employed and things failed, similar to what happened with bone.
You mentioned on one slide there was like preventable deaths versus not preventable. What's one way to like what's an example of a non-preventable, and what's one thing that like engineers can do to like kind of like lower that number?
Well, I don't know exactly what they use as a non-preventable death versus a preventable death. There are definitely incidents that I've heard of that are more preventable than others. It could be like just general worker negligence, or a non-preventable death is what I would find a harder one to grasp, even though the numbers of non-preventable deaths are higher. But I think a lot of what we can prevent can be a non-preventable death. How can we make safety equipment better? How can we improve the processes around our employees to maybe even make a non-preventable death preventable? So just in general, whether it's preventable or non-preventable, it's a life. And if we can save it, that's good. And how do I stop the recording? Just end it?
Just in the meeting.